The Super Bowl champ who's not just focused on another ring.
That struck me like a lightning bolt.
Why Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin is doing his best work off the field.
I'm a slave stealer. We're trying to rescue kids in the sex slave industry.
Plus, CBN's George Thomas shares remarkable true stories of courage and faith, all on today's 700 Club Interactive. Well, welcome to the show. Christian music artist Lauren Daigle took first place on the top Christian albums chart shortly after her release of Look Up Child.
Recently, the 27-year-old took Ellen DeGeneres and her entire audience to church with a powerful performance of Still Rolling Stones. Here's a clip.
Out of the shadows, bound for the gallows, a dead man walking, till love came calling. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. 6 feet under, I thought it was over. An answer to prayer, the voice of a savior. Oh, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. All in all, I came alive. This beating heart, these open eyes, the grave they know, the darkness should have known. You're still rolling, you're still rolling.
Well, Lauren's performance has gone viral and has drawn some controversy as some fans expressed disapproval, criticizing Lauren for agreeing to go on The Ellen Show. Others recognized her appearance as a chance to share the gospel. Ellen gave everyone in the audience a copy of Lauren's album, Look Up Child.
I would encourage you go on shows. Don't listen to these critics. Goodness gracious. A lesson I got years ago from Harold Bradison. There was some controversy about him appearing on a talk show in Manila, and was that appropriate venue for him? And he looked at me, he was very serious, very intent. He said, if I have an opportunity to preach the gospel in hell, I am going to take it. And those are words for all of us to live by.
Yeah, and it was a great performance.
So
wonderful.
Go to the marketplace. Well, we have another story that's gone viral with over 8 million views, a video of a deaf custodian at an elementary school receiving a sweet surprise from a kindergarten class on his birthday. Here's the video.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear James. Happy birthday to you.
And that was sweet.
Wonderful.
That was sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about making somebody feel included and a part of. That's awesome. Way to go, teacher. Well, speaking of children, we all know that kids aren't the most receptive when it comes to needles. Me neither. But virtual reality is helping to change that. Here's how.
As headsets have become more accessible, some doctors in Brazil have actually adopted VR to be used in their exam rooms to combat the fear and pain that children feel during vaccinations.
Oi! Você voltou! Você voltou!
The experience on display here is an animated virtual short that's supposed to distract kids from the sterile and often frightening doctor's office environment, and to turn that sensation of the needle into something a little less scary. So the way it works is that the child puts on a simple VR headset and is transported to a colorful fantasy world where a fairy-like character tells the child that they need their help. Meanwhile, the medical staff administering the vaccine keeps track of where the child is in the VR world using a second screen. They then match the steps of the vaccine with events in the virtual world, turning each sensation into a magical ingredient needed to complete the mission. So, the cold of a disinfecting cotton swab is relayed to the child as ice pollen, and the sensation of the shot itself is a fire fruit, allowing the child's brain to rewrite the pain from the shot as heat from the fire fruit. These magical ingredients allow the child to summon a force field and eventually save the VR world and its inhabitants. But in reality, they just receive their shots with little to no discomfort.
Well, wow.
That's a brilliant idea.
Just saying.
Go Brazil.
Wow.
That is a brilliant idea.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the brain can receive suggestion like that and respond like that. That's awesome. Awesome.
Fooled again.
Sign me up.
Well, around 16 million American children struggle with hunger each year. So when a program that fed hungry school kids didn't service an area in Texas, Willa Johnson was committed to feeding them herself, even if she lived 100 miles away. Take a look.
God put people on earth for certain reasons, and I think this is my calling. When you have it in your heart and it's your passion, it's not going to bother you at all.
We sent one of his angels to us. I thank God for sending you.
That's just like giving me $1 million.
Well, Willa doesn't want any accolades, though heaven knows she deserves them, but she does ask for prayer for herself and her van to make that drive safely. What a commitment.
To wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning every day. That's not just a one-off thing. That's every single day. And to then go cook 300 meals to distribute. Hats off to Willa. Way to go.
Well, Coach Mike Tomlin is trying to lead the Pittsburgh Steelers to the team's 7th Super Bowl championship, but they're also focused on more than winning another trophy.
Coach Tomlin and his team are fighting to win the battle against child slavery and sex trafficking. Here's that story.
He's the NFL's youngest head coach to win a Super Bowl.
I'm Mike Tomlin. I'm head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
A field general on an off-field mission that recently stole his heart.
And I'm a slave stealer.
The man, without a losing season during his 11 years in Pittsburgh, wants to help rescue children from enslavement.
Leave it to a head coach to call an audible at a press conference to announce that the Steelers are supporting an agency that rescues kids from sex trafficking.
We're a group made up of former law enforcement, former Navy SEALs. I got several of my operators here today. We work with law enforcement. We go undercover in this dark, dark world.
You initiated that. What was the turning point, Mike, to be involved?
It didn't take long to get there. All you have to do is be exposed to what Tim and company are doing at OUR. I spent some time praying about it and thinking about it, as did my wife, and bring OUR out here and spend a couple days with us as a football team. You know, God would take a hold of that and provide direction for all of us, and the relationship has grown.
What is it about Operation Underground Railroad that you admire?
They're a nonprofit organization that provides latitude to have partnerships with other governments and really eliminate a lot of red tape. And that's what you got to do, man. We're trying to rescue kids in the sex slave industry. These are guys that are kind of cut like I'm cut. They see a problem, and then they go about solving it. Action takers. Well, those are the type of guys you want to come alongside and pray for and help.
How have the players responded, and how have you seen their lives impacted by it?
From a professional football standpoint, there's so many things, initiatives and causes going on that in some way potentially divide someone in some corner of the room. And the minute we presented them and the work that they're doing to the team, it was something that unified the group. Every man was moved, and it's been 100% participation, different from man to man, obviously, and that's a beautiful thing.
Describe that Steeler football brand and reputation, no nonsense and tough, that doubles up as a requirement for what it would take for any of us to rescue the enslaved and the trafficked.
The same principles that we live by as an organization and as a football team. You know, our brother can depend on us. We don't make excuses. We believe in taking action as opposed to making statements. Those things embody OUR and what they're doing. And this is God's work. This is not the work of men. The pieces fit too perfectly together. They're black and gold, determined years ago before they met us. They're slave stealers. That's their motto. And, you know, we've adopted that motto.
What was the one thing that swiveled your heart?
That it may happen in other countries, but we as Americans, sadly, are the #1 consumers worldwide. We drive the market, American citizens. That struck me like a lightning bolt, and that probably was as impactful in terms of me having a strong desire to take action as anything.
Tragic, heavy, heartbreaking. It's too tough for some to look at. But for you, why is an apathetic response unacceptable?
It is tough for me to look at, but I also know that's one of the reasons why you gotta look at it. And that's one of the reasons why it pushes you to action. As difficult as it is to fathom, it's probably just as tough not to take action once you've crossed that bridge.
Speak to me as a father of 3 that includes 1 daughter.
Yeah.
How and where does that hit you the most deeply as a dad?
You know, there was a specific story about a young Haitian kid. His dad's been searching for him for a long time. It connected to me. In this job, I work late hours from time to time. And if I get home late at night, I might poke my head in every bedroom. It's just what you do as a parent. I couldn't imagine a child not being in one of those bedrooms. It's unimaginable. And yet and still there are thousands and thousands of parents that deal with that reality on a day-to-day basis.
No child, Mike, should lose their childhood.
Yeah. And no question. No question.
Sex trafficking industry profits $32 billion a year. The rescue then, to get it at its core, seems twofold. Go find and rescue those children, and then face another thing that's almost as difficult, the willingness to pray for a change of heart in the culprits. Can you do that?
I didn't think that I could. It's interesting that you asked that, because the more I educate myself to this issue, I can answer yes to that now, because you realize that prayer is what's needed. The problem is so large, so widespread. It's much bigger than we all would like to realize. The chief component has to be prayer.
Prayer reaches to the heart, and Mike, it seems to me, children and women are held hostage because of the enslavement of others. From your experience, what and who frees you from your own personal imprisonments?
You know, that's an interesting question. I get challenged in ways that keeps my confidence properly placed. You know, there's so much in our business that fosters real humility. It has fostered my personal relationship with my Lord and Savior. I just think about the grace. It is just an unbelievable thing. And that's one of the reasons why it pushes you to action.
Wonderful words. Grace, it's what pushes you to action when you understand how much God loves each one of his children. It pushes you to action. It's that love that compels us to take action. What a wonderful thing for Coach Tomlin to do. That is
really
just
amazing.
Inspiring.
Really amazing. What a great thing for a team to take on. You know, it matters. What you do matters. Well, coming up, a Muslim convert leads an underground movement, and a paralyzed woman's told she'll never walk again. Hear their amazing stories and others when George Thomas joins us to talk about CBN's new book, Rise Up, after this. Well, our next guest travels the globe in search of stories that bring hope to the hopeless. CBN News correspondent George Thomas shares his favorite stories of courage and faith. Testimonies of real people, like 2 you're about to meet. Take a look.
Liz Mitchell fell 17 feet to the pavement below her. Doctors said she would be paralyzed from the chest down. While in the hospital, her boyfriend prayed for her, and she was able to move her legs. Against all odds, Liz walked out of rehab a few months later. Majid El-Shafei was an Egyptian Muslim who converted to Christianity and led an underground movement. When discovered, he was taken by the government and tortured. Majid miraculously escaped and today brings freedom to persecuted believers around the world. These stories of faith and courage and others like them are featured in CBN's new book, Rise Up.
Well, joining me now is CBN's George Thomas, and it's great to have you with us on the Interactive Show.
Thank you.
George, Rise Up, stories of remarkable faith and relentless courage. Well, who doesn't need to read those stories?
Yes, absolutely.
But what was the inspiration behind this book?
Really, you know, I mean, I asked our research team in the 700 Club and down in the videotape library how many stories we have produced since the 60s. And they were looking at me like, are you crazy? We need a month or 2 months to go through. Like, seriously, is this a real... No, I was just curious, because I know we have produced thousands and thousands of stories over the years. And a part of the impetus for this book was, how do we capture a few, just a handful? I mean, if we would have voluminous, I mean, it would just be a huge treasure trove of all the stories that we've profiled, illuminated, and chronicled over the years. But the idea is that in the midst of these are stories, you're not going to see the names of these individuals splashed across your Washington Post, Washington Times, the Fox News, CNN. So these are ordinary, simple people who experienced, Terry, extraordinary circumstances. Not all of them were people of faith. Not all of them knew Jesus Christ. But when they had this moment of crisis, they were at a crossroads. They were hopeless in many situations, circumstances. And they had the strength to say, I don't have anybody. I don't know where to go. Yeah. And they cried out to the Lord. And in that moment rose up above their circumstances with the help of the Lord. And the blessing came in the process. So that was the idea. That was the impetus, to give our viewers and those who maybe even today, right now, wondering, whatever situation, maybe you're dealing with a financial, an emotional, psychological, whatever it is. This show is about telling people that there is hope. In the midst of your hopelessness, there is hope. We may not have the answers. Okay, sure, we may Google it and come up with an idea, but ultimately we have one who has the answers. And the idea is to point them eventually to Jesus Christ.
So personally, what made you get involved in this project?
The idea of digging through treasure troves of stories. I mean, going back to the 60s, although I discovered we don't have a lot of tape back in the 60s nor the 70s, I was wondering, how did we record all of our shows back then? But, you know, the idea to read through, I mean, we went through a whole bunch of stories to sort of whittle it. It's a tough job. Are you kidding me? And we went through, you know, days we would go through, we would sit around the table and say, this one's a great story. Yeah, well, this one's even better. Yes. Well, wait a minute, we need more time. So it was this idea of, you and I have traveled.
Yes.
And you go out and you crisscross this country, crisscross the world, and you bring back these stories of hope, and unbelievable circumstances. I cannot tell you places around the world where I've met men and women who at the point of death were asked, will you renounce Jesus Christ? And they say no. And what a privilege to come back and tell those stories. And so the idea here is that, can we create a platform that allows people to not lose hope? Yeah. Right? And that's what your show does. That's what the 700 Club does. That's what we do at CBN News, to point people that in the midst of all that chaos, there are a lot of chaos going on. In the midst of all the uncertainty, economic, political, whatever it is, when you put your trust in Jesus Christ, and when you're at that crossroads, when you're at that moment of decision, are you going to quiver? Are you going to collapse? Or are you going to hold on to this man, Jesus Christ? And even if you don't know him, I say to you, give him a shot. Yes. He will never leave you, never forsake you.
So the title Rise Up isn't just that the people in the book rose up. Yes. It's really an admonition to all of us to stand firm in the faith and whatever, because we all get tested.
Sure.
In our faith.
It's guaranteed.
And you know, you mentioned the culture in our country today. It can be so discouraging, but keeping your eyes on the one who not just has the answers, but is the answer is such a significant and it's the only answer really for all of us. There are many heroic stories in here. Do you have a favorite?
I love especially the story of Cody. This is a young man from Las Vegas who, at the age of 13, he ran away multiple times from his home because he was, you know, just physically, emotionally abused, and he just had it with his parents, left multiple times, and that obviously led him down the path of chaos and confusion. Did not know Jesus, his parents did not know Jesus, got into drugs, cocaine, heroin, ended up spending 8 years in prison. was homeless, literally was homeless in his 20s. And one day a fellow homeless person says to him, he's absolutely dirty, he's hungry. He says, listen, why don't there's this place, this church around the corner serving hot soup and a meal. We can go in there. So he goes in, and as he walks through the doors of the church, this lady by the name of Michelle walks right up to Cody without announcement, just walks right up, heads for him, and says, Cody, I'm going to give you a hug. And he says, wait, hold up. And she said, shh, and hugs him.
Yeah. Dirt and all.
Dirt and all. And in that moment, he experiences this love he had never experienced. He was like, girl, why are you hugging me? Mm-hmm. Can you not see my outside appearance? Can you not smell me? There is something that is not in connection here with your life. And she and the church came around him and said, no, you are worth something in the image of Christ. Let us introduce you to Jesus Christ. Years later today, Cody is happily married. He's out on the streets of Las Vegas. Yeah. He has his truck. As you can see, he traverses the landscape of the state, and he's ministering. He holds them, he touches them, he feeds them. Again, this is a man who understands that lingo, understands that world. Point of crisis here, Terry, and somebody intervenes. Thank God for Michelle. Thank God for the Michelles around the world. Amen. In our nation who want to intercept people's hopelessness. Yes. And bring them the message of Jesus Christ.
And you know, he did what he promised he'd do as our Redeemer. He took Cody's past and
he's wiped it clean and does not hold it against
people. Yes, absolutely. Well, I know that many of you would like to know about the book. It's called Rise Up. If you want to hear some more extraordinary stories, the book is about remarkable faith and relentless courage, and it's available at Amazon.com. If you want to be encouraged in your faith today, encouraged to move forward and make a difference, Rise Up is for you. George, thanks so much for being with us. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Gordon?
Well, still to come, a mom struggles to keep her daughter healthy.
3 nights ago, in our shelter, a baby died because of the bad water. We drink it too, even though it's not safe. Many babies and children are sick with diarrhea.
See how viewers like you are helping this family when we come back. The massive death and destruction caused by the recent earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia defies description. Survivors remain in desperate need of basic necessities like clean water.
Augustine and her daughter Afiza had only one goal after the earthquake: to find containers and a source of water. The plastic jugs came from a garbage dump. The water came from this concrete trench. It's contaminated and filled with deadly bacteria.
3 nights ago, in our shelter, a baby died because of the bad water. We drink it too, even though it's not safe. Many babies and children are sick with diarrhea.
Augustine's daughter got sick too.
The past few days, Avisa told me about pains in her stomach.
I don't want to drink the water here anymore.
When Operation Blessing learned about the camp, we provided the family with a small solar-powered device, which makes chlorine. We then gave them a new backpack to carry up to 5 gallons of water from the trench. After adding just a few drops of chlorine, the bacteria was killed and the entire 5 gallons of water was safe to drink. Operation Blessing actually gave every family at the camp a backpack and water purifying device. Now everyone has access to safe drinking water for the foreseeable future.
I am thankful to you for the water backpack and the machine you gave us. Thank you so much.
And thank you. If you're a member of the 700 Club, you're part of that relief effort into Indonesia. If you're not a member, join with us. We're helping people around the world. We're helping people right here at home in the United States. But we're reaching out, and you're a part of it when you're a member of the 700 Club. So call us, 1-800-700-7000. Say, yes, I want to join. How much is it? Well, it's just $20 a month, 65 cents a day. And if you want to designate your gift into disaster relief fundraising, there's an easy way to do it. Just go to cbn.com, and on the giving page, you can give a single gift to disaster relief. Either way, do it now. 1-800-700-7000 and say yes. Here's a word from Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Let each of you look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interests of others. And that has been a theme throughout today's show. Look out for others. Realize that you are your brother's keeper, and do that job well. Look out for the interests of others. God bless you. We'll see you again.